Hello. Yeah. In this video, we will discuss about SA 600, that is using the work of another auditor. What is the objective of the auditor? The objective of the auditor is to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in arriving the conclusions on which audit opinion is based. The extent of work the extent of work performed by him and extent of work performed by other auditors where he will be using in expressing an opinion on overall financial statements as a whole. So here what are the definitions here? Principal auditor. What is the definition of principal auditor? Principal auditor is a person who will be auditing the financial statements. Majority portion of the financial statements is known as principal auditor. Who is other auditor? Other auditor is auditor that has been appointed by the entity who will be auditing the components or branches of the entity is known as other auditor. And what are components? Components are nothing but the subsidiaries, branches, or it can be license offices that are involved in other regions or other countries. Those are nothing but components. Now we'll discuss about acceptance as a principal auditor. When the auditor has to accept himself as a principal auditor, an individual or a firm can accept himself as a principal auditor only if he satisfies the following clearly. If there is clearly division of responsibility between the principal auditor and other auditors, and there will be 4 points that he has to satisfy. First one is nature and circumstances of the entity. Second one is the extent of degree of knowledge that the principal auditor possesses over the business of the entity, and the extent the degree of knowledge and the extent of portion of financial statement that the principal auditor is going to audit. And the risk of material misstatements lies. These are the 4 areas which the auditor has to consider before accepting himself as a principal auditor. If the auditor has considered all these four items, then he will be considered as a principal auditor. If he is considered as a principal auditor, then he can if he is accepted as principal auditor, the principal auditor has to rely upon the work performed by other auditors, and he can communicate with other auditors in respect of work performed. So coordination between principal auditor and other auditor. There should be sufficient license between the principal auditor and other auditors in respect of work performed by other auditors. Principal auditor may communicate with other auditors, and he can obtain a written summary of audit procedures performed by other auditor, and he can obtain the important risk of material misstatements or risk of material misstatements that exist in other audited financial statements. And he can also provide information regarding important areas in the components of financial statements, that the other auditor has to take into consideration. And he can also prescribe the misstatements that exist in the other auditor financial statements. And he can also provide a timetable within which the audit procedure audit process has to be completed. And he can also ask the other auditor to fill the detailed questionnaire or checklist for the principal auditor purposes. And other auditor will also what is the responsibility of other auditor? Other auditor will take into consideration of the views expressed by the principal auditor, and he will important areas or important observations that the other auditor identified that will be communicated to principal auditor, and he will coordinate properly with the principal auditor and communicate all the important observations and important areas to the principal auditor on timely basis, and he will complete his audit procedures on timely basis in line intact with the principal auditor process. And next is what are special considerations. Special considerations is in respect of audit report. While drafting audit report, the principal auditor will take into consideration of the audit reports of other auditors, and he will other auditor will be, if the other auditor came across with any risk of material misstatement that exists in other auditor financial statements, it will be properly communicated to the principal auditor. These will be the major special considerations that the principal auditor will be taken into consideration while drafting the audit report. And if there is a modified report that has been provided by the other auditor, then what will be the situation, and what are the responsibilities of principal auditor in respect of this situation. If the opinion of the other auditor has been modified, or modified opinion has been expressed by other auditor, then the principal auditor has to see whether there are any still there are material misstatements exists in the financial statements, and how those are going to affect his opinion in the auditor's report. And if they are going to affect his opinion in the auditor's report, then he will be issuing a modified opinion. Principal auditor will be issuing a modified opinion, either qualified adverse or disclaimer of opinion. And if the other auditor has issued other than unmodified opinion in his audit report, and the principal auditor is unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in respect of audit procedures that have been performed, then the principal auditor might issue a qualified opinion or disclaimer of opinion because of scope limitation. He is unable to obtain sufficient or appropriate audit evidence in respect of audit work performed. Then if the other auditor has issued a clean opinion or unmodified opinion, then there will be no issue. The principal auditor will rely upon the work performed by other auditor, and he will also issue clean opinion. And other auditor here, the principal auditor might, if it is necessary, he will visit the component, and he will ask the other auditor to perform test counts. He will to perform supplementary tests. Either supplementary tests will be performed by the principal auditor, or it will be performed by other auditor. And he will also obtain supplementary information in and results of work performed by other auditors. And he might principal auditor also prescribe the areas or important areas or important which the other auditor has to take into consideration. He can this will be the mostly important points in respect of using the work of another auditor. In the next video, we will discuss about SA 570, that is going concern standard. Thank you.